And we are live. Hello, everybody. Hello, Dr. Adriana. All right,
Hello,
guys.
hello.
Adriana, Dr. Adriana. So this is a fun, brand new everything that we're about to do today, guys. I'm not going to be on everyone with the doctor, but my name is Chelsea Dalzell, and I have the very great pleasure of interviewing Dr. Adriana here, as well as on Clubhouse. So there's multiple ways that you're going to be able to ask questions with us. A, you can find the link that Vinny, our wonderful man that's ready and at the ready to support us, will put a link in the chat right underneath this. And you can also, so you can jump on Clubhouse and you can type questions in the chat for us. So nurturing the body and spirit is the question, or sorry, is the topic for this round. We will usually have topics ready for you guys ahead of time, just to sort of give everybody some context. Adriana has a massive scope that she can speak to, and so one of the ways that we figured would actually make it chompable, digestible, would be maybe to give it a little bit of context, or at least something to kind of jump off on. Now, we do have we have a couple of questions that people have submitted ahead of time, which I'm going to send over to Dr. Adriana as we go. And just note, guys, this is the very last one. Right now, you're going to have found this wonderful Facebook Live in Adriana's page. This is the last one you're going to see on her page. From now moving forward, they're all going to be in the new Kaleidoscope of Possibilities group. Again, all kinds of links will be available to you, but if you like this, you won't be able to find it that easy anymore. You're going to have to come over to that group with us, where Adriana is facilitating and we're taking questions, and there's a lot of good stuff going on in there. I'm going to let Dr. Adriana introduce herself a little bit with her credentials, who she is, how she's got here, what kind of stuff we're going to be talking about on the Ask Dr. Adriana series that we're starting.
Thanks, Chelsea. So, yes, the doctor. The doctor is a licensed clinical psychologist, an addiction and trauma specialist, and an empowerment coach based out of San Francisco, California, but who, through the wonder of technology, gets to work with people from all over the world, which has been super cool. And I never imagined, I think, when I first thought about this career, that it would ever take me like all over the world the way that it has. So that's been really awesome. My, education was pretty traditional in terms of like what I learned in school and in undergrad and all of that. And then life took a twist, and I ended up getting really, really sick in my early 20s. And that really began my quest for wholeness and health, and put me on a spiritual journey. And I started learning a lot about different healing modalities, what we would call alternative therapies and things like that. And because Western medicine didn't have a lot to offer me, and I wasn't getting better. And so as I was learning about these different modalities, I also started going to grad school at a program that was much more holistic. It was focused on transpersonal psychology, which is really about the study of really like how do we help people reach their highest potential, and so began this 20 plus year journey through health and illness and dark night of the soul and meaninglessness and depression, to being happier than I've ever been and healthier. And now it's time to share what I've learned with others, both in my practice and now through these really cool platforms like the podcast and Facebook and Instagram and Clubhouse and YouTube and all these different venues that we find ourselves on, and where I now have created a presence just to try to get this information out there, to let people know that there are so many ways to deal with your health and well-being besides just pills and talking about your problems. So
wonderful. Ooh, I love it. Okay, well, maybe we just jump right into the questions. So that's kind of the cool thing about, we don't know what this is going to look like yet. This is a brand new series that Dr. Adriana is doing. And so I say we just jump in.
Yeah, for sure.
You ready for it, Dr. Adriana? Okay, so the first question is, what is pain with regard to the body and spirit? How do you know when the spirit is in pain or the body is in pain, and how do you treat it?
Well, I would say that those things aren't really separate. That's, I think, one of the fundamental differences in how I work with people and see things is that body, mind, emotions, and spirit are all connected. Our Western medicine model fragments it, right? You go to the medical doctor for your body problems, you go to a psychologist for your mental and emotional problems, and you go to a priest or, shaman or whoever, for your spiritual problems. But they're all connected. If you have anxiety, you feel it in your body. You have anxious thoughts. You have emotions that, we call anxiety, fear, worry, and all of that. And there's a spiritual component. There's a sense of like, I'm not okay, or I don't, the universe, God, higher power, whatever, doesn't have my back, or I'm all alone here, or there's something wrong with me. And so any illness or issue or problem has aspects across all those realms. So if you're talking about pain, I would start asking questions, because questions empower. Questions always empower and open up possibilities. Answers, conclusions tend to disempower and cut off the energy. And really, energy is the common denominator across all of them, right? Your body is made of energy. Your thoughts are a form of energy. Your emotions are energy. I mean, all of it. Your spirit is an energy. So really, the common language that is energy. And when we're talking about something like pain or illness or dis-ease, it means that something energetically is imbalanced, is out of whack. So what is it that's creating that out of whack energy? What is it that's creating the energy of the pain? Is it even yours? I usually start there, right? I start with this access consciousness tool called Who Does It Belong To? Is that pain actually yours, or are you aware of it in somebody else? It's really interesting. Dr. Dane here, who's the co-creator of Access Consciousness, is a chiropractor, and he was working with a guy for years who had all this like really, really intense pain. And when he finally learned this tool from Access, Who Does This Belong To? He immediately said, it's my wife. His wife had back surgery and had horrific pain. And at one point in time, he had said to himself, I would do anything to take this pain away from my wife. So what did he do? He took her pain and he locked it into his own body. So I would start with that, right? Who does this belong to? Is this pain yours? And, just check in with your intuition on that, not your thinking and analyzing whose could it be and all that. No, check in with your knowing. Like, what do I know? Is this really mine? And if you're not sure, if you're not getting really clear on that, just send it back. You tell the energy, just go back to whoever it came from and see what happens. If it lightens up, if the pain in your own body lightens up, wasn't yours to begin with. That's always, to me, the lowest hanging fruit is like, let's let go of the things that aren't ours, the things that we're constantly picking up from everybody else, especially our loved ones, because, we don't want them to be in pain. We don't want them to suffer. And sometimes unconsciously, we might be trying to heal someone else by taking on their pain, right? I might ask some other questions about pain. I might ask if there's some thoughts that create that pain. What am I thinking that is so painful? And then what am I thinking that's creating some sort of emotion that is painful, right? Like sadness and grief, like we can feel those as pain, right? And your spirit, spirit's kind of harder to talk about, but spiritual pain might come from a sense of disconnect. It might come from, I don't feel like I have a place in the world. I don't have a sense of meaning or purpose, or, there is so much suffering in the world. How can I be here in this place where there's so much suffering? Again, I think we ask questions, And then we ask, what would it take to change this, right? If you've returned to sender what's not yours and you're still left with pain, what is creating this and how can I change it? What is this? What do I do with it? How do I change it? All of those are questions that you can ask. And then sometimes like all of that can lighten up the energy and change it. And sometimes you get stuck and then maybe you want to talk to somebody, work with somebody, work with a healer, somebody who knows more about these different modalities that might be able to assist. You might get the hit that the pain is coming from a vertebrae that's out of alignment, and maybe you need to see a chiropractor to get that adjusted. Maybe it's, seeing a holistic practitioner like myself who might use muscle testing, which is a fascinating thing we can talk about. Muscle testing to get more information from the body about what's going on with it and from, for what it requires. Because you're working with energy. When you're muscle testing, you're testing the energy of things, and you can get a lot more information that way. There's just so many different tools and techniques, but it all starts with asking a question.
So, Dr. Adriana, then will you jump in on the muscle testing? That's actually our second question, is what to do when muscle testing and light and heavy are wonky. Which other tool would you recommend?
Yeah, so manual muscle testing, it comes from applied kinesiology, which is the study of muscles. So one of the things that people realized way back, like in the 40s and 50s, as they were studying the body and how muscles work, is that muscles would involuntarily contract under different conditions in response to different stimuli. So for example, what like police and military and FBI people have learned is that when people are lying, their facial muscles will do little twitches, right? And so when they're questioning someone, they're looking for those little twitches that are involuntary when someone is lying. The lie detector test, similarly, when you hook someone up to a polygraph, right, it's measuring muscle spasms. Those little wavy things on the paper are muscle spasms. So we have these involuntary muscle responses. So what people have learned, it came really from chiropractic, is that if we test a certain muscle in the presence of a certain stimuli, if that muscle remains strong, it basically indicates a yes. Whereas if the muscle falls weak and contracts, it indicates that the statement is false, or it's an energy that is not okay for the body. So chiropractors will use it like, okay, this is a glass of water. If I had, let's say, some other sort of drink in here, I could muscle test, or even water, to see if my body actually wants this water. And a lot of times the chiropractors will use that to test you for supplements, different medicines and things like that you might be taking. It's also a way to know if somebody's body is allergic to things, because you're testing their energetic response. This substance, if my muscle goes weak, we usually do an arm test. If my muscle goes weak, it means there's something in here that's disrupting my energy field. My body is not congruent energetically with this substance. So some brilliant chiropractors realized that you could apply that to the world of mental health, of thoughts and emotions, because we have certain thoughts that are not congruent to us, and we have emotions that create distress in our bodies, right? So a brilliant doctor, there's a few people to name, but a brilliant doctor that's one of my mentors named Scott Walker, who was a guest on the podcast, came up with this modality called NET, neuro-emotional technique, where he took elements of chiropractic and muscle testing and studied traditional Chinese medicine or acupuncture to look at what are the energies that are getting blocked or stuck in somebody's body that is creating muscles and that go spasm. It causes pain. It causes vertebrae to go out of alignment, whatever it is. People can't hold their adjustments. And he's looking at what are the stuck energies, the stuck emotions creating that. So a lot of applications of muscle testing, including in the world of energy psychology. A lot of the energy psychology modalities are also using muscle testing. It takes a lot of practice, okay? I'm somebody who's been muscle testing for over 20 years. And even I sometimes still don't get a totally clear reading. Why? Well, because sometimes it might be as simple as I'm dehydrated or my blood sugar is low. And so because that affects your whole energy field, and like the way that the energy normally flows in your body can go wonky or get scrambled or disorganized. So sometimes it's as simple as drink some water, eat something, and you'll get more clarity on a muscle test. Now with light and heavy, which, you know, is an access consciousness tool, and I call that kind of the internal muscle test, right? We're going with the idea that whatever's true for you, that yes response, the strong muscle, is going to feel light and expansive. And whatever is not true for you is going to feel heavy and contracted. And so I'll like show that to people by saying, you know, like let's take a statement of fact, right? If I say to you 2 + 2 is 4, and you notice the energetic response, it feels light, it feels true. If I say to you 2 + 2 is 99, do you notice it has kind of a like there's something wonky about that? It doesn't feel true, attractive. So people in access are using this light and heavy tool to get more awareness about a question, like who does this belong to? Is this anxiety? Is this pain mine? And then they'll check and see light or heavy, or you could do a muscle test, right? And there's self-muscle testing you can do as well. So part of the reason it doesn't always get clear for folks is, one, it takes practice. 2, you have to really not get out of your head and get into your knowing. I mean, this is really all about your like gut intuitive knowing, which goes far deeper than your thinking brain does. You know, like how they tell you on standardized tests, like always go with your first instinct, don't second guess yourself. It's like that, right? So sometimes when we are in our head trying to figure it out, or we're trying to get the right answer, that can make light and heavy wonky. Sometimes we already have a projection or expectation of what we want the answer to be. Like, you know, like people will ask like, oh, if I have sex with this person, you know, what will that create? Because they've already decided they want to. And so it's not really, you know, they already have a projection expectation. So their muscle test or their light is going to go that direction. It's not because see, when you ask a question, you have to truly be neutral, like not attached to the outcome. It genuinely has to be a question. Like, if I sleep with this person, what will that create? Right? You also have people who are asking a question that's not really a question. So should I sleep with this person? That should already has the element of judgment in it. And judgment is going to cloud your clarity. Judgment contracts energy. And so anytime you're asking a question, or if you're like, what's wrong with me that like I can't keep a relationship? That's not really a question. That's a judgment with a question mark attached, right? So there's a lot of ways like this in which our light and heavy can be wonky. I actually did a class on this a couple years ago where I came up with like 10 different things that could be getting in the way, and like 10 things you can use, strategies, clearings, different things you can use to help you get more clarity with your light and heavy. So I think that's in the shop. We could probably put a link to that in here, but we definitely can get more skilled at it. And there are ways to get more clear. There's also like from energy medicine, we have certain like energy medicine type things, like we can tap on certain acupuncture points. We can do this zip up thing. We can do some other kinds of like working with the body to help the energy reset itself so that the muscle test will read correctly. Okay. That's a long answer to your question, but hopefully that's helpful.
That was a good one. Thank you, Dr. Adriana. And there's one more actually around fear. So how to deal with excessive fear in the body? Like when there's a constant sensation in my body that something bad is going to happen with me, what can I do about this?
Well, again, that's a tricky one. I usually need to know more about the person, to kind of understand like what that is. I will say the first thing that kind of comes to mind is people who have had a lot of trauma or even just some trauma, tend to be hypervigilant. Like their nervous system, because they went through a trauma, their nervous system may get stuck in the fight, flight, freeze response. And so there's always this sense of like, ooh, like I'm not safe or something bad is going to happen, and it might come with this like exaggerated startle response or this like constantly scanning the environment, for potential threat. That's usually a misfiring in the brain with the amygdala. The amygdala is the emotional center of your brain. It's where fear comes from. And if your amygdala scans the environment and says, danger, danger, it sets off that whole fight, flight, freeze response, and you're going to feel it as that fear in the body. So in that case, we need to work with what's causing the amygdala to misfire, right? Because, you might be getting set off by a certain smell or a certain tone of voice, and your whole body goes into this like life or death. Oh my God, my life is at risk. That's not actually accurate. So there are modalities that we can use like brain spotting or EMDR, which are really great for trauma treatment. And one of the ones that I like to use a lot is tapping or EFT, emotional freedom techniques, which is basically stimulating acupressure points. So instead of putting needles, we're actually just lightly tapping on those spots. That is actually quite effective at sending a signal up to that amygdala to tell it to calm down and to get out of fight, flight, freeze. Okay. There are other things we can do. There's certain kinds of breathing, 4-square breathing, yogic breathing, anything where you're making the exhale longer than the inhale. What all things do is that the tapping, the breathing, they activate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve helps to get your body out of sympathetic nervous system arousal and into parasympathetic relaxation, because the vagus nerve is related to this feeling of safety. So I guess I would be looking at, what's going on with that person and their feeling of safety in the world. Is there trauma? Maybe doing some trauma clearing work. Let's not rule out who does it belong to, I get on an airplane and I might feel a lot of fear because people who are afraid to fly. I might just be picking up on it like a little radio antenna. So maybe always start with that first. Fear in the body isn't mine. Try sending it back and see what happens.
Right on. Thank you. That's those are the questions that we've got for today. We do have a couple of suggestions for future topics, like
Yes.
money and all kinds of fun stuff. So I think probably, again, guys, if you're not already over there and you somehow snuck on in here to watch this from Adriana's page, the rest of these are going to be up on the Kaleidoscope of Possibilities open Facebook group. And that's where I think we're going to probably we're going to try. Adriana doesn't know I'm going to do this yet, but I'm going to suggest that we maybe choose the next couple of topics, or at least the next one, and choose a date. And we'll have that nice and posted up there for you guys so that you can start getting your little wheels turning around any other questions that you might have for the new topics. Thank you very much, Dr. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
That Antonietta, we got your question. I hope you heard it, love. If you didn't, it's in here, and it was well spoken to. All right, well, have a wonderful night, everyone. Dr. Adriana, thank you so very much for this conversation. And thank you for everybody joining us.
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything else to everybody before we leave, Adriana?
I guess what I would just share is like a piece of wisdom that just has like really transformed my life through everything I've been through, and I've been in my life and witnessed a lot of it as a psychologist who's a trauma and addiction specialist. Like what I witnessed with clients is just to give people as fucked up you think you are. There are tools and techniques that can help you to change that. that can help you to change the way that you're seeing yourself, and that can shift the energies of whatever is causing you to feel that way. Everything, the energetic lens is that energy is malleable and anything and everything can be changed. So I'd leave people with that.
I love that. Thank you. What a beautiful way to end this. All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you, everybody watching. Thank you, everybody in the group. Have a lovely evening, day, afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.